We are welcomed by the lovely Kara Alloway. She is best known for The Real Housewives of Toronto and is now the author of her new book, Most Hated. Hi, Kara.
Hi, thank you for having me so much.
So are you in LA at the moment, or where are you living currently?
No, so I do live in Toronto. I commute back and forth because after being on Real Housewives, I produce reality television now. I have two shows that we're pitching. One of them is called Dallas Planners Club, and it's like $1 Million Listing, but for charity event planners who... Dallas is the fundraising capital of the world. It's very interesting because it's all in the name of charity, but these event planners, it's a tight little circle, and they sort of go to each other's events and try to eat each other's lunch. So it's really interesting because it's, it's all for a good cause. But let me tell you something, next time you're doing this good cause, let me plan it because I'll do a way better job. So you always want the sweet and sour when you're doing reality television, and it gives you that perfect sweet and sour because I can talk about the charity and say it's such a worthy cause. Yeah. And then you see the people planning the event and you're like, wait, what?
You said that's one that you're working on right now?
That's one of them.
Okay.
And then I have another that's completely different. It's a food show. It's a group of individuals. I call them like mild-mannered individuals because they all have real jobs. One of them is an accountant. One of them is an advertising exec. One of them is a food blogger. But they have these ordinary jobs, and then they are extreme foodies. And the name of the show is Extreme Foodies. So it's not like they will say, oh, I heard this a great restaurant in Santa Monica. Let's go check it out. No, they'll get a call on Thursday and say, look, we can get a reservation at this sushi place in Tokyo. Let's go. They have huge disposable incomes. So they hop on a plane. Away they go to Tokyo. They go to the restaurant. They order everything on the menu. I mean, they have laws of extreme foodies. Like you have to order everything on the menu, not in the name of gluttony, but more in the name of like, we're here, so we're going to taste it all. But they are so well versed in the history and chemistry of food. Yeah. It's incredible. And they know all about, they call it the science and history of food, that they are so well educated in, and they have tasted it all. So for our sizzle reel, we went to Tijuana. So we left here really early in the morning. We arrive in Tijuana. We did 48 tacos from morning until 8 o'clock.
Oh my God.
Tasting all the different tacos. I started pitching them just before COVID, but if you can imagine like a charity event show.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Couldn't do it during COVID. And then the food and the travel show.
Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do that. So we're back again, starting, back pitching again, but we're thinking maybe we have to reshoot all of our sizzles and whatnot.
So when you started with reality TV, did you go in thinking that you had it under control? And what you're really saying is it doesn't matter how much control you have, they'll take it from you, or they'll
Exactly.
flip it around.
I thought, I know exactly what I'm getting into. I'm going to be so careful of what I say.
Yeah.
I'm going to outsmart production. Nobody takes into account the power of the edit. And where it really hit me was I was walking into a restaurant one time and I had on really high heels, and the cameraman was walking backwards filming me. So I was walking really slow. So, if you take like really slow steps in high heels, you're like, I just said, I'm going to fall over. You need to walk a little faster. Okay. And he said, no, you're not. And don't worry, it won't look like you're walking slow. We'll speed it up in the edit. And that was the first time it hit me because I was so careful about what I was saying.
Yeah.
I never thought, wait, the edit? Whoa.
Or I didn't even know the NDA thing.
I can't tell you the emotional distress it is to have a narrative out there that people are discussing, saying, this is who she is, this is the kind of person she is. And you're like,
that's not defamation because you
No, because you signed the participant agreement. When I showed it to a lawyer who was not my husband, he literally said, you'd have to be crazy to sign this. I thought I knew exactly what I was getting into. I thought I knew exactly what I was signing. I'm going to be smarter than them. I've got this under control. That's how I became most hated. So I'm no spring chicken. And again, me thinking, I know exactly what's going on. We'd be doing an interview and they'd say, okay, would you say when you have a good life and a lot of money, everyone wants to be your friend? And I said, no, I don't think I'd say that. And they said, no, would you say that? And I was like, oh, okay, sure. I take direction well. When you have, and I said that. So then when I see that on the show, I'm thinking, you idiot. Why would you say that? But when you're in the moment, nobody really gets it. And it's interesting because the reality participants that read my book said it's a fiction book. So it's chick lit, it's fun, it's funny. But they said you did an excellent job at capturing that anxiety that the reality participant experiences, and nobody else can understand it. The friends of or the periphery people know. You have to be, my husband likes to say, you are the pig in the bacon and egg breakfast. You know, you're all in.
You're not allowed to say, I didn't do that, right? Because you signed that thing. But are you allowed to just present yourself as like a, you know what I mean? Obviously you can.
You can. And I did my best. But let me tell you something. When people, I had well-educated women who were mothers of my son's friends when I would go to after-school pickup, who would say, I can no longer speak with you. I saw what you said on the show. And I can remember thinking, I know, this is what I said to you. I was like, okay, well, good.
Were you scared to come out with a fiction book that could potentially cause trouble?
No, because I'll tell you this. I have grown up in a very female-centric world, and I always knew I wanted to write a book that dealt with female relationships. I went to an all-girls school. I come from like a really matriarchal family. My mom and my aunt would plan things at Christmas and whatnot. So I knew that I had a story about how females interact with each other. And I think the world is fascinated by this. Reality television in the book is really just the backdrop. The meat and potatoes of the book is how women interact with each other. And what's really cool is when I finished Housewives and I was in a really bad place, someone put this book in my hand. And it's by this 80-year-old psychologist from Manhattan, Dr. Phyllis Chesler, and it's called Woman's Inhumanity to Woman. And it does a deep dive into how women relate to each other. And I read this book and it was like the scales fell off my eyes and I said, now I get it. I understand so much. So that book really informed a lot of my characterization. And she's, you know, she goes back into the sociological origins of it. It starts at 8 years old in the playground. We're very tribal and there is a hierarchy. And if you're an independent thinker or a truth teller and you don't subscribe to how the hierarchy thinks, these are 8-year-old children in the playground, you're shunned. And how are you shunned? You're gossiped about, you're slandered, you're outcast, and it starts at 8 years old. And so she says, she spends 7 pages at the beginning of her book apologizing for writing it, going, look, I love the sisterhood, but it's messed up. And she puts a name on it. She calls it internalized female misogyny, because normally you think of misogyny, men not treating women appropriately. But there exists this internalized female misogyny.
This is why the women don't support women, and that's the problem. That's why there's boys clubs, because men support each other and they handshake each other into all of their deals. Whereas when a woman gets it, she says, nah, like to her peers, I had to work too hard to get here.
Girls are taught, you know, there's one beauty queen, one actress gets the part, you know, one gymnast type thing. So it is changing with sports and whatnot. Like the you know, we're doing girls teams and stuff, but girls are traditionally raised. One person's going to, you know, win. We need to change that, and we need to make rules of engagement for women. And, you know, just like sports has rules of engagement, how are you going to engage with others within the sisterhood? How are you going to change it, and how are you going to make it better? It might mean the death to shows like Housewives. Although I'll say this, there are some points with these Housewives shows that I really appreciated. For example, the most embarrassing part for me of being a housewife was when you have to take another woman aside and say, could I have a word with you, please? Because it's just, to me, cringy. I would never do that. Why? But it's interesting because they're saying, resolve your differences quickly. Get it wrapped up. And I think maybe if women did that, you know, if I had a problem with you and said, okay, not gossiping to third parties, but coming right to you and going, I got a problem with this. Can we talk? Can we work it out? And the model of Housewives does that.
How'd you get on the show?
So I was dealing with the production company about pitching them my charity show, actually. And they said, look, this is a side door for you. We're casting housewives. Come on the show and you can be the one that does all the charity work. And I was like, no, I want to produce this show. I don't necessarily want to be on it. And they said, yeah, but this is a faster way to get there. And you can be sort of like how Lisa Vanderpump did her spin-off into Vanderpump Rules from Housewives. And I thought, okay, well, you know, I'll try anything once. Why not? And secondly, I thought, if this is a great way to get my show made, okay.
How do you think that reality TV affects our mental health and scratches our itch for judging others?
I think actually reality television is both good and bad for mental health. I think if you have a good approach to it, and if you understand, again, that it is edited, and that it is meant to be voyeuristic, I think that's very healthy. I mean, reality television at the end of the day is still entertainment. So it's meant to entertain. You're not watching home movies of your parents. Someone told me once that a judgment is a confession. And I sat with that statement for such a long time. And I thought, wow, isn't that really kind of profound? Because, you know, if people look at reality television, say, for example, one of the New Jersey housewives who had this huge over-the-top wedding and was getting so much judgment for that, I thought, I wonder if the people that were judging her were actually secretly confessing to themselves, well,
I
I
wanna
want to be the
go.
princess in the wedding,
Yeah,
or
or-
I want to be a guest there.
Yeah.
Whenever I think
I wanna go.
like negatively about someone, I'll
I
think,
wanna go
oh, what
so
are they
bad to a
doing that I
fancy
don't
wedding.
like about myself? Let's hold up your book, Kara Alloway, Most Hated. Go and get it now. Available everywhere.
Available everywhere. Thank
Fun
you
to have a
guys so
book.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have the best week, guys. See you next
Bye.
week.